I am very privileged and happy to be here this morning. Thank you for having me. First of all, I'm excited to talk about geolocation and proximity marketing because there's a lot of noise in this space. There's a lot of chatter and a lot of confusion and excitement that kind of all rolls into that soup. And what happens then because of that is not a lot of progress is made either on the consumer side or on the business side because people get excited but then they don't know what to do. So hopefully we'll be able to solve some of that this morning for you. And again, we will have questions at the end, and you've got sheets on your chairs, so if you have questions as we go, make sure and jot them down. I will do my best to get to everyone's questions. Again, my name is Andrea Busse with IntelaText, and to give you a little bit of background, IntelaText is a unique mobile integration platform, and it has a very strong emphasis on customer engagement technologies, not just geolocation, but in general. And of course, geolocation is a hot topic right now, but as a standalone unit, may not always be the best fit for a business. So how we incorporate additional or other technologies into that is almost equally as important as this one standalone tactic. Wouldn't you agree that it takes, it's more ways than one to skin a cat, or however you want to phrase that, where you're going to rely on what you know works as strong boulders of foundational success while experimenting with some of the new technologies that are out there in the market. Okay, so first things first, because I have a lot to cover today, so I'm going to really jump right in. I want to talk to you about what exactly is proximity marketing or geolocation. Well, they're actually two different things. And often people don't realize when they talk about them that they are so very different. In fact, the proximity marketing is a little bit more labor intensive on the part of hardware than geolocation. So the short version is that proximity marketing is device-oriented, that sends out a ping or sends out a message to phones within a certain radius, and it's a very short window. We'll go more into that. And geolocation is actually associating your physical location with perhaps your IP address, your MAC address, GPS coordinates from your phone, or even your Wi-Fi connection. So that's the big difference. One is actually being submitted out from a device. The other one is finding you based on satellite or IP coordinates. So it's a big difference. Okay, so proximity marketing is the first one I want to talk about because typically when people hear the difference between the two, they get more excited about geolocation. But you wouldn't understand the benefits of that until we talked about proximity marketing first. So that's what we're going to go into. So first of all, how many people in the room are aware or familiar at all with Bluetooth relating to proximity marketing? Anybody? That's what we get people kind of, Okay, that's exactly the sentiment that's going on out there. And that's why. People know what Bluetooth is, but typically they know Bluetooth as the little Bluetooth devices. They don't think of Bluetooth as a transmitter or as another signal as a way to receive information in. So when you're dealing with proximity marketing on a whole, you're looking at a little device like this. This is actually a Bluetooth transmitter. Pretty tiny, isn't it? You gotta be careful not to try to plug this into your computer. This is a Bluetooth marketing device. So what happens with this is it actually will send out or ping out within a certain radius, and usually it's less than 150 feet. That's not very far. And it'll send out a signal to approximately 7 to 14 devices at any given time. So simultaneously, that's all it can handle. That's how many connections or channels. The problem you have here is that 90% of people in the U.S. do not have Bluetooth enabled on their phones. Your phones here in the U.S. don't come equipped with Bluetooth as enabled as an automatic default. Now you have Bluetooth on your phone, but you have to physically go into your phone and turn it on and make sure that you keep it on because it will drain your battery, so it's set to turn off. People don't know that. And then when you've got a device like this that's seeking those people, it also does not make a noise. So if it comes into your phone, it's not going to send a ping or a ding or an alert. You don't know. So you have to be physically looking at your phone in order to see, oh wow, I just got a message. Okay. Now this is a smaller device. As IntelaText, we try to improve on technology, so we've created what I call the alien. And what this is, well, it kind of looks scary, but the idea behind this, it's still very small, just plugs right in. You can see it's simple to use. These devices range from about $350 to $1,200 depending on how many connections and how fast and all that kind of stuff, kind of like a computer. And the idea behind this is that this one, the one that we have, can actually hit over 300 feet which is an improvement. It's almost double. And then you can also have 28 simultaneous connections going at a time. So, you know, again, not amazing, but beneficial. And we're going to talk about what some of the pros and cons are of having this type of technology, because there are benefits to both. So typically what happens when a proximity marketing device is attempting to contact you, it's going to ask you two questions. Number one, would you like to pair with this device? And that language does not come from the marketer. That language comes from the browser. So the only information you can change is the name. Would you like to pair with ABC Company's device they're trying to reach you with? Well, okay, if I say yes, I want to pair with that, if I say yes, then the second question it asks you is, it's attempting now, ABC Company is attempting now to download a file. Would you like to download this file? Right, everybody in the room is going, ooh. Yeah, exactly. So here's some of the unfortunate statistics of proximity marketing. And this is just laying it out there for you. It's a totally different story, by the way, if you go overseas. In Asia, their phones are much better equipped to handle this. Their technology is completely different on how they use their phones. They use primarily feature phones, not smartphones like we do in the U.S. But they can rock those feature phones like nothing you've ever seen. They can do more with the feature phones than we can do with smartphones any day. That's a whole separate session to talk about. But the idea behind the proximity marketing in the U.S. is it's almost treated like the redheaded stepchild. The phones, especially smartphones, intentionally try to block it. And they say, you know, it's for consumers' protection, and we were just, you know, reading some of the horror stories of why. However, where there is a cool and interesting technology and there is a deflection or a block from the FCC, there's a workaround. And every company is out there looking for the workaround. So we'll talk a little bit about that too. But 90%, as I mentioned, of the phones in the U.S. would never ever receive that signal anyway, because they're not open to receiving that Bluetooth message. Then out of the 10% of the phones that are actually open to be able to receive that message in, only 75% of those people are going to say no, I don't want to pair. So only 25% of that 10% are even going to say, okay. So your numbers are starting to dwindle very, very quickly. And then over half of those people won't ever receive the actual file, which can be the coupon, could be whatever the offer is that you're trying to promote. They won't actually receive it because typically it's in a transient area. So they're walking. And if it only has a radius of 150 feet, by the time they go through all these hoops, you're out of radius. So now it's dropped it. So if you're going to use proximity marketing, you better expect less than 1.25% of your target market to actually receive it all the way through to the end. And people go, well, 1.25%, well, forget it. Well, there's benefits to it. And Bluetooth is gaining in popularity here in the U.S. There are other reasons, other applications for people to have their Bluetooth on. So just by accident, occasionally people are going to go, what is this? And so it will start to get a little bit more traction. But it's not going to be, you know, like it is over in Asia. So ways that we can improve it, I talked about IntelaText. We bypass that first question altogether. We don't ask, would you like to pair? We go right through there. We're actually a tier 1 provider with the browser, so we go right through that question and don't ask. But we do ask the question of, you know, ABC Company is attempting to download this file, which again, we can't change that language. But we try to beat the system a little bit by saying, instead of ABC Company is attempting to pair, we will say 20% off at Zaxby's today is attempting to pair. You know, it's just marketing. So if somebody wants that coupon bad enough, they'll go ahead and click through and figure it out on how to do it. And then again, we can go ahead and pair with more devices. Now here, what's really, really key is the fact that the best way to increase participation in your Bluetooth is signage. And a lot of companies say, gosh, I don't want to have signs up all over the place about this, but you do see signs everywhere for Wi-Fi hotspot, you know, hot zone for Wi-Fi. Well, along with that Wi-Fi sign, it's real easy to put a Bluetooth, a symbol for Bluetooth, and people can say, oh, and it's also Bluetooth. But oftentimes people won't do it unless they know what the incentive is. You know, so they're Bluetooth enabled. Great, I don't need Bluetooth at the moment. But if they understand, oh, if I connect to my Bluetooth right now, I'll get a 20% off coupon that I can actually walk up and show at the register, they'll do it. So Red Bull attempted to do this and had some success with it, obviously more success than not doing it, and figured out that by adding the signage, it almost quadrupled their results. Okay, now let's talk about the pros and cons of just proximity marketing by itself. First of all, it's a very small investment. So if you can pay a couple $100 up to about $1,200 for one of these devices, and you can put it in a static location, I mean, for that matter, you could put it in a vehicle. Anybody here like Wild Wing Cafe? I love wings. Okay, they actually bought a big RV bus that you can take around and tailgate, which was a smart idea for them, and you can plug this right into that RV, and of course because it hits up to 300 feet, then they can get the whole parking lot, basically. And the idea then is to hit people while they're tailgating and where they are, because they're sitting in a static location, and there's a higher chance they're going to be looking at their phones. In that scenario, it makes sense. But if you're going to have it in a static location, it's really going to do all the heavy lifting for you. You really don't have to do anything. For a very small investment, say you only get 1%, but you do nothing. It runs low maintenance. I mean, in fact, you just have to make sure it's still plugged in. Other than that, it runs and runs and runs. So is it worth it? You know, if you get one client or maybe 10 clients over time, yeah. Obviously, it depends on your margins and what you've got into it, but it still has a place. And as Bluetooth continues to become more popular, that number will increase. Probably not to 60%, but it might increase up to 10% eventually. So that unit will more than pay for itself. Now, obviously some of the cons are that most phones won't even receive it to begin with. The range is exceptionally short, even up to 300 feet, which we brag about, still very short. Short range, 300 feet is a football field, I mean, so you know. And people don't realize how quickly they walk. You know, even at places like the Georgia Aquarium or at a place like Stone Mountain Park, they don't realize how quickly they'll walk 300 feet. They have to be very careful as far as where you put that in a static location. The other problem with it is...
It's 300-foot radius, right?
It is a radius.
Really, you're talking about 600 feet. Mm-hmm. On one end,
that's right, unless they come in at the end of the circle, yeah, and then they cut through, it's even worse, as you can imagine, because then they only get maybe 15 seconds or so. You're absolutely right. So if somebody hit it exactly perfect on the diameter of that circle, then they might actually have a chance. So again, I'm talking about pros and cons. There are definite benefits to it, and if you ever get business out of it, it was a very small investment and it ended up paying off. You didn't have to put a body on it. You didn't have to monitor it. You didn't have to do any maintenance. It's just running in spite of you. Even if you forget about it, you'll earn some business off of it. So that's genuine proximity marketing. Now, the difference between proximity marketing and geolocation, again, is how it tracks you.
Don't mind, you had a bullet on that last slide there about no cons, no micro-targeting.
Mm-hmm.
Can you explain that? Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm going to get to that. The thing about proximity marketing that's different from geolocation is that it doesn't know who you are. So geolocation can actually find you based on your IP address, your RFID, your MAC address, again, your Wi-Fi location where you're connected in, and it therefore has a much better idea of who you are and your habits. And sometimes it'll also know your phone number itself, not just the IP, and it'll know your name. And why is that even important? Well, because with the proximity marketing, it's more like a shotgun approach. It's mass marketing versus the geolocation and sometimes geotargeting, which we talk about, which is much more micro-targeted. Now, even geolocation is not as micro-targeted as it needs to be, as it should be. And there are ways to make it more so. And often people think, gosh, do I really want to give all that information about myself away? Do I really want somebody to know my name, my birthday, you know, how many kids I have, what kind of, you know, socks I like? Well, yeah, actually, you might. And I'll tell you one of the reasons why. We learned this years ago with Macy's. If you're a young, good-looking, executive single guy, you might love Macy's, but you do not want ongoing text messages or communications about, you know, children's apparel or women's shoes. Now, how many of those are you going to receive before you finally just opt out? But you do like Macy's. However, if you started to receive text messages about, you know, hey, Jonathan, Kenneth Cole's on sale today, 25% off, come in, show this barcoded VIP shopping pass, and by the way, let's link with the GPS coordinates in your phone and we'll walk you door to door. Maybe you're traveling. Okay, now you're a happy guy. because you got what you wanted. So that's where micro-targeting really plays a strong role to the benefit not only of the business but also the consumer itself. So the idea behind the geolocation is to aggregate or build ultimately a long-term opt-in database. Because just hitting somebody one time, you're banking on the fact that they had a great experience and they're going to tell all their friends. It's a little old school. And not that that doesn't happen, but you sure don't want to take that to the bank. You need something that's going to be the catalyst or the stepping stone for you to be able to build a true opt-in database of people that are allowing you to communicate with them via mobile. Why? Why is it so important to build a database to communicate via mobile? Does anybody in the room not have their phone on them? Exactly. Every single person has their phone. You know, there are statistics that show that we have our phone over 85% of the day. They're not more than 10 feet from our bodies, which of course means while we're sleeping, they're on the charger. And that's really all that means. But I bet you can hear your phone even if it was in the middle of the night, even if it's on the charger. Am I right? See? Yeah, that's right. That's right. Well, let's hope we're not getting calls in the middle of the night. But the idea there is that it's our lifeline. I don't even know why we call them phones anymore. You know, with all the activities and the things that we do on our cell phones now, I think actually making physical calls is one of the things I do least on that device. But we've become so dependent on it. The problem is you have multiple email addresses, right? And especially when you're going to enter something, you know, you'll give somebody your junk email. That's my junk email, right? Yeah, he's laughing. He's like, I got 6 of those. What happens then is you filter through your day on how you're going to receive certain communications. You put the fires out first, you know, and then you say, well, this one's business related. I better get to it by the end of the day. And then other ones, maybe they're articles on health or something you're interested in or communications from old college friends. It's not till 11:30 at night sometimes before you finally get around to those. Now that brand marketer doesn't really have your attention because where are you going with that? What action steps can you take? And with geolocation, it's instant access to you, hopefully with your micro-targeted preferences in mind, to cause you to take action right that moment. And there's a lot of different technologies that we can piggyback on top of the geolocation to maximize that response. Because so what? So what that you've hit somebody with a relevant message? If they go, and then keep walking, you've lost. And people say, well, brand awareness. Do you know how much brand awareness we get all day, every day? And we have tons of statistics on that too. It's brand action that counts. Wouldn't you agree? You really want that person to move. You want them to make a purchase or forward it to a friend. At very least, you want them to at least post it to their Facebook or their Twitter and send that on virally for you. And we can help you do that. So let's talk a little bit about some of the other terms that people tend to confuse. Geo-targeting actually has much more to do with that consumer's actual preferences or that consumer's likes and dislikes. And targeting traditionally has all been done online. It's just now moving into mobile. And you know this. You know, you look up something online and it's going to know your IP address and your physical location, so it's going to show you things based on your area. So companies like Hulu and iPlayer use geo-targeting all the time because they have certain restrictions on where they can show you certain content. For example, outside the U.S., they can't show a particular program. Geofencing is basically what it sounds like. Geofencing is a fence or a virtual perimeter around a particular site. Could be a business, could be a bridge, it could be whatever it would need to be in order to track. Anything that comes into that geofence gets hit. If you walk out of that geofence, you're gone. It can't hit you. And a hit could be like a tap on the shoulder, mobile, obviously, that says, may I pair with you? May I communicate with you? It's a very soft tap on the shoulder. Then the handshake actually has to be initiated by that individual. You do realize before geolocation can ever take place, that person has to say, yes, I agree to be pinged. Well, how do you get them to agree to that before they even know? How do you get somebody to agree to do something before they even know what you want them to do? Well, that's where the trick to geolocation comes in. So as a consumer, you may say, gosh, I love Bath & Body Works. You know, anytime they have a sale, I want to know about it. Well, how in the world would you ever know that they had a geolocation offer that was a mobile-only offer unless somehow, some way, they communicated that to you? And we'll talk about how to do that. So pros and cons with geolocation. Obviously, the pros are it encourages customers to take action right then and there, and the technology really does all the work for you. You know, again, you don't have to put a body on this. This doesn't require, you know, a PhD in mobile marketing. It just runs automatically. It's not a device, which is nice. So if you are a franchise and you've got, you know, a couple hundred locations, Sunglass Hut is a perfect example. They're not a franchise, they're corporate, but they have 1,500 U.S. locations, and then they also have locations abroad. They're actually based out of Milan. So now they don't have to buy 1,500 devices, and then they also, of course, don't have to rely on Bluetooth to be on. So there are huge benefits to that. It's really easy at this point to integrate your personal preferences with it as well. And again, companies are moving away from just mass marketing. They're really looking now toward how do I micro-target to you? What do you like? What do you dislike? Which is sometimes even more appropriate to ask. Where do you go? How often do you go there? What's going to make you move? When we gave you a coupon, you moved, but when we asked you a survey, you didn't respond. That kind of information is gold. So just to be really, really careful how you use this technology from a brand marketer standpoint is to be very respectful of that data. Because it's not email. It's not spam filtered. You can't delete it. You know, when you're talking to somebody and communicating on this device, this is sacred ground. Wouldn't you agree? I mean, I don't think anybody in this room is like, bring it on, I want 1 million multimedia text messages of junk. No, you don't. You do want pertinent information that's relative to you, that's timely, and that's going to make a difference. It's going to make you go, I feel privileged that I got that. But as soon as you start feeling like there's spam involved, you're out. And you're upset at that point. So the brand is going to do more harm than good if you abuse it. So that leads right into the cons. Businesses just have a very tough time not abusing this technology. It's sexy, it's easy, it's fun, it's different, it's cutting edge. And businesses are like, oh, I've got a lot of people, I have a message, I need to send it. No, you know, less is more. Less is more. Not just with geolocation, but really with any of these mobile technologies that we're discussing, because you want to know the information you want to know, but nobody likes, loves, or cares as much about that particular brand as that brand marketer. That brand marketer feels like, well, everybody would want to know about my daily special and, you know, how many times I twisted this vase around. No, they really don't. So you just want to know what's relevant to you. It's very difficult for businesses to contain themselves. So when they don't, that's a huge con. Again, it'll backlash on you worse than the benefits of doing it correctly. And then another problem is that owners will say, I'll drop everything else I'm doing and just do this. I don't have to do anything. I can fire this person. I can, you know, let go of that huge advertising budget. I'll just do this. I'll just hit people where, you know, my businesses are, and I'm all set. And I tell people, please don't do that. This is an adjunct. This is a booster pack. This is going to be an amplifier to what you're already doing. This does not replace other forms of traditional marketing. So just be wary of that as well. And then people sometimes forget that they've opted in. I'm guilty of that. You know, I see something really neat and I opt in for it, and then 3 months later I receive a text message from them and I go, why are they sending me this junk? And then I have to think, well, I must have opted in. Well, not always. Not everybody is as careful as we are about the opt-in process. So there's always going to be pirates out there. There's always going to be those lone rangers that decide they would rather ask forgiveness than permission. And the FCC does their best. The FCC is really trying to crack down. It is on the short list, I promise you. We actually sit on an advisory council for the FCC about this because there's just so much going on. And our guardrails as a business are here, even though the road is like this. So people in the industry say all the time, gosh, why are you so stringent? You're leaving so much money on the table. And we say, because we're going to be around in 10 years. There's a right way and a wrong way to communicate with people. And more than anything, it's about building the relationship. More than ever, more than any other time in history. It's not about our brand is unique and different. Well, everybody says that. It's not about our value prop. I'm so tired of those words, aren't you? Everybody talks about, you know, why you need me. But nobody's really yet talking about why I'd like to have a relationship with you. And here's the value, Mr. Consumer, that I'm going to bring to your life if you would allow me. That message is so tender and so different. So gone are the days of the used car salesman, you know, with the clowns and the balloons and all that. And now it's a very soft, it's a very subtle, a classier approach. And I think all of us in the room agree. Thankfully, that's the way it's moving. So one other thing is the fact that micro-targeting is often not used when people feel with this methodology that they can just get away with it and just send out whatever they want. And if they fail to bring in that step, they're really missing the boat. Okay, so what about consumers? Well, all of us in the room are consumers. Has anybody in the room ever received a ping from either proximity marketing or geolocation? 1, 2, 3. Only 3 people in this whole room. So when you think about the saturation, we're still on the low end of the curve. There's still a lot of possibility for businesses and for consumers. But businesses are scared, just like consumers are. Well, I don't know, I'm nervous, well, what about my privacy? What about my security? And I definitely want to talk about that today. This was a survey that was conducted that talked about people's reactions to proximity and geolocation. And I just thought it was interesting. So this is exactly how it was phrased. This is not my phrasing, this is theirs. So 27% of the people said, wow, I'm totally freaked out by it. I don't like it, don't want it. You do not need to know that information about me. And besides, too many other people are already tracking me as it is. My cell phone company, my credit card company, I don't need you knowing where I am as well. And I think all of us can kind of relate. There's some hesitancy there, and we feel that way sometimes. But then when you think about the benefits, you think about the fact that, gosh, there's some really cool things that I could do with this as a consumer. And that's what the 24% says. Wow, this is so exciting. Think of the possibilities. Maybe good, maybe bad, but there's some really cool possibilities. And that 40% is what I really want to focus on. That 40% said, I'd try it. I'd give it a shot cautiously, but I'd give it a shot. And then 9% don't even know what we're talking about. Okay, so how to protect and manage your privacy? Well, I think it's obvious. Just be discerning. Be specific with your opt-ins. Also, be very careful when you get those little pop-ups on your phone. You're driving, you're trying to get to something, and you get a pop-up. Read it. Because let me tell you something. If you click that button and allow that company to know your location, you will always have them know your location. Let me say that again. Once you give them the authority and you allow, they will always know where you are. Now, Safari is a browser that's becoming a little bit more careful about this. They'll have a button that says, allow just for this one time or forever allow. And then sometimes when a brand will continuously send that message every single time you get that message, if it asks you to know your location, and it says, do not ask me this question again. But not all browsers are the same. And some browsers don't ask you that again. And so because of that, you're going to receive that same message over and over again. So how do you get people to opt in? How do you get these communications to people? How do you get them to initiate the handshake? Because they have to. Well, we use a series of different technologies, and every day there's new technologies, creeping up. And the nice thing about the IntelaText platform specifically is that it's agnostic to whatever the technology du jour might be. So, for example, if somebody is finding your brand through print, anything printed, could be a Frisbee, could be a t-shirt, could be, your business card, could obviously be signage or, anything big like that or direct mail piece, we're going to use a QR code. How many people in the room are familiar with QR codes? Quick response codes? Good, a lot. Fantastic. Quick history, they were developed in the early 90s by Toyota to keep track of car parts for inventory. Nothing in the world to do with marketing. But now, because they can take you to a URL, the idea is to have them take you to a mobile optimized URL so you can then view it on your phone. For example, on the back of my business cards, which everybody should receive, is a QR code. In fact, if you'd like to scan that, not right now, but if you'd like to scan that, when you actually scroll down and see all the information about us, one of the things that we've done for this presentation for you is when you hit on our little robot friend there, it'll actually take you to a mobile optimized white paper with all my notes from today's presentation. So that's my gift to you guys. And so there's a lot of information I'm not able to get out in this short amount of time. It's all in there regarding proximity and geolocation. So happy reading on that. Now, if somebody is coming into your brand through ether, it's radio, it's the billboards 200 feet in the air, it's TV, we'll probably use a short code. It's my least favorite way to do it. It's the most cheesy way to do it oftentimes. It's text the word something to something, and then you get something in return. Now, if you're using a QR code or you're using a short code, you then, as the brand, have to ask a second question, because they're only opted in at that point to receive that one communication. So what we like to do at that point is ask them for additional information for them to opt in. And we can actually ask for some drill down information based on your name, your preferences, and the things that you're interested in hearing from that brand about. Again, back to the Macy's example. Now, if it's some type of a situation, it's a trade show, or perhaps you've got associates walking around with iPads, talking to people and directing people, all of that can be done with direct input. And we would just provide a little widget, basically, that would sit on that internet device, could be a phone. And so as you've got, the Bud girls walking around the bar asking people to opt in so they can enter to win a contest, or at a medical convention, people are standing in line anyway to register, might as well ask that information for, a birth survey for speaker schedules, things like that. Now, if it's anything web-related, and we all know the power of the web and search and all the stuff that now just feels so commonplace in our lives, how do we put a guard at the gate of whatever that point of entry is? Well, we use a data collection portal. And that data collection portal can be any size, any shape, and the fields can be customized to ask their name, their interest, maybe it's date of birth, maybe it has something to do with their zip code, or whatever their favorite location is. And that'll sit inside their Facebook, their Twitter. We're actually an official application on Facebook, which makes it easy, because people don't like to chase rabbit holes and come back and back and back. They just want to stay in Facebook and marinate in it. And that's fine. We can do that too. And then if it's anything that they're doing as far as an email blast, or maybe it's an online ad, maybe it's a blog. Of course, we would put it on your website. So again, whatever that point of entry is into your brand, we're going to put a guard at the gate, and we're going to very politely ask them, may I communicate with you via mobile? And by the way, tell me your preferences and what you want communicated about so we can respect you and your privacy and your time. And that works fabulously well. Now, what industries benefit the most? Well, I think they're fairly obvious. Retail, restaurants, hospitality, any type of parks or attractions, entertainment, consumer packaged goods are phenomenal for this, and events. Sometimes campaigns are really good for geolocation as well. And how they're actually used, there's a lot of applications that fit all of the above and would work for all of them. But specifically for retail, you would think sales, coupons, promotions, new items. Yeah, obviously, that's true. But some of the things you may not think about by adding in some of that other micro-targeting that we talked about are doing things like a VIP shopping pass for the day, or perhaps loyalty and rewards program, or an instant win for an item that day. Again, the idea is to have them take action. Entertainment is fun. I'm a big movie buff. Anybody else like movies? I love movies. Okay, so the idea is you're able to then get a message either through geolocation, proximity, or perhaps maybe it's a QR code that you saw on the movie poster, and now you're able to watch the entire trailer embedded inside the body of that text or that QR site that you saw. So now you watch the trailer and you go, wow, that's really cool. Opt in to receive ongoing information or maybe a chance to win tickets to the premiere. You're going to do it because you're going to take action. And, oh, by the way, it will also link you with GPS, so then it'll walk you to where's that theater, or where can I see that celebrity, that's promoting that new upcoming movie. And consumer packaged goods are fun too, because we can use all that barcoding technology embedded inside the text message itself. So now you've seen people, I'm sure you've seen it online, where you can take your phone and then, boop, you scan it and walk right out the door. That's going to become more and more prevalent. And we're not here today to talk about near-field communications, but that is in that same vein, which we also do quite a bit of work with as well. So it's nice because if it's a consumer packaged good that you like, it's a brand that you want, then you feel like you won the lottery, because now all of a sudden you know it's there, you know how to get to it, and you got a deal. Everybody likes a deal, right? Restaurants are fun too. We all like to eat, some more than others. And the idea behind the restaurants is more than just, hey, here's a coupon. How about what your drink special of the day is with a beautiful picture? Sometimes it's a new featured menu item. What I'm trying to say is no coupon necessary. If you hit people with relevant, timely information that strikes a chord emotionally with them, it's beautiful, it's rich, it's got ongoing information, meaning you can scroll down and click through to make a reservation. Maybe you can click through to request more information about a catering event that you want to have, or maybe a large event that you want to do. All that can be now done by piggybacking that multimedia texting through the geolocation. Attractions and venues are fun because you may know that there's something going on at Stone Mountain, but you may not know everything that's going on, and now they can send you, hey, here's an itinerary of what's going on. Here's a big agenda for the weekend, and that'll prompt you to take further action. Same with Disney. Obviously, Kennedy Space Center has fantastic results with our technology as well. Events, I could go on and on and on about events. Everything from sporting events to parades. If you can imagine, maybe you're downtown, maybe you're just driving by Piedmont Park, you have no idea they're doing some type of an art auction or charity event for maybe it's a charity that's near and dear to your heart, and maybe you didn't know about it. You just didn't get the email because it was number 212. And now you get that geolocation message, or you get that multimedia text message, or both, that now tells you they're right there, and oh, by the way, I'm on my way to a meeting, I can't go, but you can click through to donate right from that text message, or you can click through to volunteer for the next one. Again, take action. So you're spurring them on, and this is fantastic for fundraisers and any type of event where if you're at a parade or a festival, those sponsors absolutely want that information. So one other thing I want to note is the forward to a friend feature. And this is where every single communication that you send out, you're going to want to ask that person to please forward that on. Not only does the friend get the information, so they're happy, but now that brand actually gets the friend's data. Woo! Okay, this is where everybody goes, hang on a second. Yeah, they're not opted in. So you can't start spamming, Jason because he got it. However, Jason now has the opportunity, just like the first friend did, to go ahead and opt in for further information. And oh, by the way, it was free. It cost you nothing. They did all the heavy lifting for you. And then you also don't have to worry about FCC because they did it. They sent a text message to their friend. Okay, so real quickly, how do you avoid pitfalls? You just want to be really careful to treat the data like gold. It is gold. It is your biggest asset. By the way, your cell phone number will soon become more important than your social security number. It's true. How many of you have just recently got a new cell phone number? Yeah, nobody. Now that you can port your phone numbers over and area codes aren't really a big deal anymore, people are holding on to their cell phone numbers forever, no matter what your device is. And now that you can make payments through them, you can vote, you can do polling, you can do all these surveys, you can do all this kind of stuff with your phone now. Be very, very careful of your own phone number and whose hands it's in. Best ways to increase and monetize your ROI? Well, tracking. Tracking is huge. So again, with geolocation, you don't want to treat it just as a broadcast medium. Same with proximity marketing. You want to treat it as an aggregator. I'm going to reach out and tap you for the purpose of getting you to now join my club. Okay, come in, be part of my preferred relationship. Maybe you send mobile VIP only types of communications. People love that. They want to feel very James Bond, right? They want to be early adopters. So tracking is huge and key. And if something's not working, change it. And that also brings me back to you want to really create a unique opportunity for mobile. So if somebody has been hit with geolocation or with a multimedia text message you send, make sure that that offer or that privileged information is mobile only. One, for tracking purposes, and two, so they feel very special. And they know, well, I better take action because I'm not going to get this in my email. This is the only way I'm going to get this offer. I better do it now. And then switch it up, not just for their interest, but you want to make sure you're changing that message at least once a month. Because if I go to the mall all the time, I'm a big mall hog, and all of a sudden this is the third time I've walked by Sunglass Hut, and it's the same message I keep getting, now my perception of the brand goes down. So as a marketer, you have to be very careful about that. And then, again, you don't have to coupon. Maybe it's upgrade status. Maybe it's a special, privileged information. It's a video, for example, of behind the scenes that nobody else has been able to see. Doesn't have to be a coupon to build that loyalty. And lastly, it all really comes full circle. So the idea now is, 5 years ago, search engine optimization was really the only way to go, and it's still so hugely powerful. But do you really want to go and search for something on your mobile phone and then now see, Italian and Midtown, whatever, now you see, oh, look, there's 5 competitors. No, as a business, you want that person to see you and you only. So if you can now be proactive and send that message out to them before they've had a chance to search, then you have a much higher opportunity to not only build that relationship from the get-go, but avoid your competition. You've then outrun them. You've outsmarted your competition. And if you do the right move, and you collect further opt-in data, which I really can't stress enough, and get their personal preferences and treat them with respect with your mobile communications back out, you will have a customer for life. So you're building that relationship was really key. Now, if you're Disney, if you're Home Depot, you need an app. You have to have a native app for what you do. But if you're a restaurant or you're just a brand that wants to get out, here's our new products, or let's talk about a restaurant, for example. You say, here's our new menu, our springtime menu. By the way, click here to make a reservation, check out our catering, forward this to a friend, and hey, there's seating on the patio, come on in. If that's all you're trying to communicate out, then you really don't need a native app. You can do all that WAP side, because you want to change that content as often as you want, and you want it to be agnostic on the platforms. So we can typically save companies thousands and thousands of dollars of not having to develop their app for iPhone and then BlackBerry and Android, because really the functionality doesn't warrant the need for a native app. However, if you're doing a virtual world or a game or something where you want that person to consistently play it, where you need the speed and you need the accuracy of that opt-in to come from the play, or performance-based, then you're going to need a native app to do that. And so it really just depends on who that client is and what their needs are and their goals are. As it relates to geolocation, then of course that all comes in browser side. Do you send them off to a native app, or do you send them off to a web app? Depends on what your end goal is. But you're absolutely right. And I'll tell you who it's not a good fit for. It's not a good fit for a lot of professional services. For example, if you're an attorney, if you're a doctor or CPA, you're very limited as to what communications you can send out via text. You've got HIPAA regulations and, client confidentiality issues. You're not going to be sending that type of information via text. The exception on those is if they do big seminars, wealth seminars or educational seminars, and they need to get people there, let them see the agenda, click through to RSVP. Sure, then it makes sense. But on the B2B side, there's fantastic applications for getting information out to your brokers or to your sales reps. It's like a digital brochure that you can change real time, and then you've got that emotional content. So then you can turn around and say, hey, look, Mr. Customer, don't you really want this? Ooh, there's only 6 cases left. Better get one. Click through to buy. So in a B2B setting, fantastic. But where it makes the most sense for multimedia texting is really going to be in retail, entertainment. It's going to be in those areas where you've got high touch with your market, ongoing constant communications. And again, the multimedia texting isn't a standalone tactic by itself. I mean, I guess it could be, but it's not going to be as effective as it will be as an amplifier to everything you're doing. If you can take the boulders of your current marketing platform and you just fill that in with sand around it, that sand is your mobile integration. It's going to be what pulls in like vacuum widgets onside the website, the Facebook, the Twitter, whatever you're already doing. It's going to pull and aggregate all that data for you and lead it back to mobile. So whatever those communications are that you were already going to have are now going to be much more directed to that person's hip. Another question? Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, I think the idea behind all this is to be very careful as a consumer with who you allow, and be very aware that once you allow, you're in. They now know where you are, number one. So be careful about that. You can always go to your phone if you're savvy enough and take it off, but you need to be very careful with that. Now, as a brand marketer or as a business owner, again, this is a very powerful tool for you, but it's not something that you go sit in the middle of the desert and forget all about. The idea is, how do you integrate this for true maximizing of success with not just geolocation or proximity marketing, but with all your other marketing tactics? Use this as a springboard. Use this as a way to build the relationship with your clients so they feel privileged. Because everybody likes to feel special, and everybody wants to have that feeling of, hey, I'm first. Did you get this on your phone? Because I did. That feeling? We like that. Everybody smiles because they're like, yeah, I do like that. I like that feeling of being the coolest in the room. This definitely has that cool factor to it, but there is a responsibility on the part of the consumer as well as the business owner. But when mixed with the marketing efforts that you're already doing, and with all your correct multimedia texting, this could be the #1 catalyst. It could be the secret sauce that really sets you apart from your competition in the market and really gives you the boost, the leverage that you need. So thank you so much. It's been a pleasure to be here. I appreciate it. Thank you.